What up? What up? How's everybody doing? It's me, Dustin Coyle. You're tuned in to Intelligent Thoughts. This is an episode of the NBA Today once again, coming at you like four times this week? Not entirely sure. It is an NBA Today for Thursday, April 25th, 2019. This is going to be a short episode today. There was only 2 games last night, just 1 game today to talk about, but we are going to bring up a little bit of James Harden action, a little bit of D. Mitch, Donovan Mitchell, maybe talk a little bit of Kevin Durant, a little bit of Sweet Lou. All this is coming up here in just a second. Before we start the show, I would like to do some plugs here. Rate, subscribe, review, all that good shit to the podcast Intelligent Thoughts, wherever you get podcasts from, however you're listening to this. And go and like the pages, the social media pages, Intelligent Thoughts on Facebook and Intelligent B Thoughts, that's the word B, on Instagram, and Intelligent Tho 1, Intelligent THO, and the number 1 on Twitter. I'd appreciate it. We could have a little bit of interaction with the show yourself. I would like to see how everybody feels, all that shit. Maybe start doing some poll questions on Twitter or maybe Instagram. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to take that forward, but we'll figure some shit out. All right, I promised you a show. With no further ado, let's get into it. Let's listen to a little bit of music. First game of the night last night in Houston. Pretty tough shooting performance for everybody involved. Another defensive battle. This marked the 4th time in the 5-game series that the losing team failed to score 100 points. Been a completely defensive battle the entire series. Really tough shooting the entire series also, from just about everybody involved. Clint Capella has been under the weather. Harden has struggled at times, probably 3 games or so in this series. Utah has tried a few different ways to de-harden up, including standing behind him, including standing to his left. A lot of different stuff. Some of it worked a little bit, some of it didn't. But last night, James Harden scores 26 points, almost all of them in the second half. I believe he started like 0 for 8 or 0 for 9. And the Houston Rockets outlasted the Utah Jazz 100-93 to win the first round series between the two teams, 4 games to 1. I told you guys this shit was going to happen. Free money if you listened to me again yesterday. That's back-to-back days. Back-to-back days with free money. I made a little bit. It seemed scary, though, for a second. Utah was winning for a long time. Like I said, James Harden struggled early in the game. Never really picked it up. Still didn't shoot very well. Mainly just defensively. Houston ended up picking it up. He finishes 3 for 12 from 3 land, 10 for 26 overall. Finishes with 26 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists to go with that. Not the best game of all time. Really doesn't shoot well, but he still scores 26 points. It's just so tough to stop James Harden. Eric Gordon had it going a little bit, 4 for 8 from downtown. He finishes with 15 points. Chris Paul, 6 for 16 from the field. Poor shooting night for him. He finishes with 15 points, 8 rebounds for Paul, 5 assists to go with that as well. And Clint Capella, pretty damn good game. Supposedly feeling back to normal in this one, 6 for 7 from the field, 16 points and 10 rebounds in the victory. Utah had a tough one here. Donovan Mitchell, 4 for 22 from the field. 4 for 22. This has been a terrible series for Donovan Mitchell. 12 points. He finishes with 10 less points than he had attempted shots. 0 for 9 from downtown. 1 assist. 12 points, 1 assist, 6 rebounds. As poorly as James Harden has shot during this entire series, Donovan Mitchell has actually played worse than James Harden. I did not know that it was possible. Really tough series for Donovan Mitchell, and probably ends up being the main reason why they lost. If he would have shot better, at least average, I think that they would have won at least one more of these games so far. Royce O'Neal for the Jazz, the leading scorer, off the bench in 33 minutes. 18 points on 8 for 13 shooting, 5 rebounds, 2 assists to go with that as well. Ricky Rubio, pretty damn good game for him. Only 1 for 5 from downtown, but he finishes with 17 points and 11 assists. 7 for 15 overall shooting for him. Good game for Rubio. 15 points, 10 rebounds for Jay Crowder. He goes 3 for 7 from downtown. Another good game for him. Not quite as good as the last game, game 4, where he really lit it up. I mean, he had, I think, like 16 or 18 points in the first quarter. Big game for him. Joe Ingles makes 3 3-pointers. He finishes with 11 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds. He really looked good in the game, actually. The Jazz really looked good. For the majority of the game, they looked like the better team. And then it just came down to the fourth quarter. James Harden hit a couple of shots. He started making the floaters that they were giving him. Some other people got involved a little bit. It was just a rough fourth quarter after what looked like a pretty promising start and a pretty promising third quarter at the very least for the Utah Jazz. Donovan Mitchell couldn't make anything. Rubio started missing. Just not enough made shots there in the fourth quarter, and they end up losing. They end up losing by 7 points on the road, and it marks the end of their season. Utah goes home. At the end of their series or season here, pretty much expected, obviously. You know, the Houston Rockets were the heavy favorite, 9-point favorite last night. You know, Donovan Mitchell's going to have to, same thing that I was saying about Westbrook yesterday, Donovan Mitchell is going to have to learn how to shoot better. He's literally going to have, he's a very clutch player. He's willing to take the heat on himself, extremely athletic, but he's going to learn he's going to have to learn how to shoot in order for them to make it further in the playoffs. He's the focal point of the team. They're not going to have a high draft pick for the foreseeable future. They'll sign him. Rudy Gobert, you'd have to think. And other than that, they're going to probably surround him with shooters. I'm not entirely sure what happens with Rubio. He's played well. But I would like to see Donovan Mitchell kind of take over that aspect of the game as well and just get another three-point shooter in there, someone that he can facilitate to. Either way, it's going to be a tough offseason. It's going to be an offseason where maybe Donovan Mitchell has to think that he didn't look as good as he did his rookie year. I mean, that's not good. For the last 2 months of the regular season, he played awesome, but then again in the playoffs, it went back down to where he was before. You know, or probably worse. That was probably the worst we've ever seen Donovan Mitchell look. And I know it was in a pressure situation, and he is the guy who's going to have to score. And Houston's defense is actually surprisingly really good with P.J. Tucker on Donovan Mitchell. You know, what is Utah going to do with a guy like Derek Favors, a guy who was starting at the beginning of the season and ended up being replaced by Crowder? I mean, he pretty much is unplayable. I know that their net rating is a minus overall with him on the floor, and I think it's a +7 or +8 with him off the floor. They're going to have to figure out something to do with Derek Favors. You know, probably trade bait maybe for a future pick or something like that, but they really need to find some shooters. Joe Ingles is good. Crowder can be good at times. Rudy Gobert, non-existent. Rubio, not great. Royce O'Neal's played well. Other than that, I mean, I guess they got Korver, who ended up not playing. Grayson Allen ended up not playing. They probably have to have, I mean, I guess Korver's a free agent. Grayson Allen, I don't think he is. I mean, it's going to be a tough offseason for the Utah Jazz. I don't know right now. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to crack the top little bubble. They finished in the fifth place, the fifth seed this year. They're not as good as Houston, obviously, who finished fourth. They're not as good as Portland. I think that should be probably pretty obvious, who finished third. What's going to happen to Denver next year? What's going to happen to Denver the rest of this season? Those are some questions you might have, but unless Utah makes some serious changes, I think that they're kind of peaked out at the fifth position. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually finish lower than that next year with, some shifting around, maybe a resurgence of the Lakers, depending on what happens with the Clippers, possibly getting big free agents. So Utah's got a tough road ahead, and we'll see how it works. Donovan Mitchell, seems like a very, very hard worker. It's going to be a long summer, hopefully, for Donovan Mitchell. If he wants to improve as a shooter and improve as a player overall, it's going to have to be a long summer for Donovan Mitchell. And for the Houston Rockets, they move on. They'll be facing the winner of the Golden State Warriors and Los Angeles Clippers series. James Harden's obviously going to have to pick it up if they're going to beat the Warriors. He's not going to be able to start 0 for 9 or 0 for 15 like he did in Game 3. He's going to have big shooting games, especially from three range. He's and they're going to do the similar stuff that Utah did defensively. The way that they defend him is probably going to be very similar to that. Klay Thompson, an all-NBA defender as well. One of the best wing guard defenders in the entire league. Much better than what Utah had in that situation. Well, not much better, but a little bit better than what Utah had in that situation. They could also choose to put Iguodala on Harden and then move Klay Thompson over to either Chris Paul or Eric Gordon, depending on who gets hot out of those two. If they decide to go that route, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. This is probably, in my opinion, this upcoming series is the most important series in James Harden's career up to this point. More important than the Western Conference Finals last year when they were up 3-2 over Golden State, and mainly because that happened. This is a little bit of the redemption year. This might be the year where if they don't do it, or maybe they don't push it to 7 games, that more questions arise, possibly about James Harden, especially if there's a cold shooting streak there in the series at any given point, especially if it's towards the end of the series. So, I think that Harden has a lot of pressure on his shoulders right now. Looking forward to that second round matchup. We all kind of saw it coming. Technically, it might not be against the Warriors. That series is not over yet, but most people would assume that it is. Big one coming up though for the Houston Rockets. Alrighty. Speaking of the Warriors, we had one other game last night in Oakland, California. The Warriors played in it, and the story was Sweet Lou. Lou Williams hits a pretty sick fadeaway with about a minute and a half left, finishes with 33 points and 10 assists off the bench. And the Warriors bricked a lot of shots late in the game. And the Los Angeles Clippers upset the Golden State Warriors 129 to 121 on the road to stay alive. This in Game 5. The Clippers are now down just 3-2 in the series. It will go at least 6. This is a good thing for Houston. No matter who wins this one, you'd like them to be a little bit more tired. And you do like to see the holes in the game of the Golden State Warriors if you're a Houston Rockets fan. At one point in the fourth quarter, Sweet Lou scored 8 straight points, including a big three-pointer. His only three-point make of the night, though, actually. But, the Warriors look bad. Like I said, he finished with 33 points and 10 assists. Danilo Gallinari finished with 26 points, 7 rebounds on 9 for 22 shooting, 3 for 11 from downtown. Not the best game for him, but definitely able to put the points up. Montrezl Harrell continues to be their second best player. Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell are the two best players on the Los Angeles Clippers roster.